And he's gonna get paid off more when he hits his trips or weird two pair.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I don't think they're just drawing to two pairs as often as they're drawing to a gut shot. Even if they can hit two pairs or trips more often than the gut shot, they just don't think like that because the
It's
two pairs
interesting. I've never thought about it from that perspective. Like from
because
his perspective
it's
of trying
not
to draw to
drawing
the
to the
nuts.
nuts. Basically, it's they want to draw to the nuts because in the live games they're playing, the pots are mainly linked. So the pots are really. I mean, okay, this is actually a totally different concept, but I think it might be nice for the audience. So most fish actually plays live games with their friends or at casinos, and most of the pots there are limp pots because when fish versus fish, let's say there's no aggressive guys in the table, nobody's gonna raise a pot pre-flop unless they have like ace king, aces, kings, whatever. I mean, some really strong can. So and obviously they don't fold, so it's just gonna be like four-way, five-way limp pots, and they it's not like that when they have like 200 big blinds behind and only have like five big blinds in the pot. So to get the big money in, you actually need to cooler someone, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that going broke with two pairs in a five-way limp pot super deep is a cooler, but they will think like it. I mean, two pairs can't ever be folded, so they will think that it's a cooler. So they always want to be in the winning side of the cooler, and with the gut shots, you can never be in the losing side of a cooler because when you hit, you will hit the nuts. So when they are drawing to the nuts, they are like falling like 0%. And because they know that when the big money gets in, they want to have the nuts. But I mean, in six max games, it's obviously not the issue because basically there's first enough money behind, and second, the game is more aggressive. So you can't just get small bets all the time and get to the river, let's say. But it's why they are leaking money,
Right.
and so we like that they're doing it. But it's the thinking process. I mean, so you need to be somehow picking up on that and should be. I mean, even at any gut sports, you should be betting big. I mean, any coordinated board, I tend to bet bigger versus the fish. So because I mean, let's say he has king X as he has now. I mean, we're not losing that much money because we're probably gonna fall to his river lead pretty often. And when we bet big, I don't expect him to lead that often at the river too because I mean, king F is also a part of our range pretty often. So,
Sure.
um, and and one other thing, when we bet big on the turn, I don't think he's ever gonna lead 7x, 4x, pocket five, pocket sixes. I mean, he might obviously lead with a missed draw, like a missed cut shot, missed flush draw, whatever. But I don't think he's gonna lead second pair when you bet the turn bigger
Okay.
because your hand will look more like a king X or something like that.
I mean, it's really interesting thinking about the parallels of because here this small turn bet. I mean, it really does kind of leave me guessing on the river. Whereas, uh, so a leak that some micro and small stakes players have is they get to the turn. Let's say they're out of position and they check because they're not really sure where they are, and then somebody in position bets, and then they call and they do the check guess line, and they have no idea where they are by the time they get to the river. And here, I didn't really see the parallels between that line and me betting smaller on the turn and getting to the river. I just thought
Okay,
I was, but I mean,
let's
I
think
can
like this.
totally see the parallels
We,
between those.
we can make it even easier. Let's say you bet 25 cents here.
Right.
So it's basically I mean, is it the min bet? So let's say
No,
10
10
cents
cents
here.
would be the minimum
Yeah.
bet.
So okay, let's say you bet 10 cents here. Do you think is it any different than a check?
No, there's no difference between those two.
And even in this guy's mind. So let's say when you bet 10 cents here and he check raises you, you might actually never know if he's check raising for real or it's basically, I mean, you make it such a lame bet that he's picking up on something. You may never know, right? I mean, it's basically a guessing game. So you much rather just check behind because that 10-cent value doesn't hurt the risk of giving him a chance to make a play, right? He would much rather just check behind rather than betting 10 cents.
Right.
So I mean, okay, I'm not saying that this 125 is like a 10-cent bet, but still, it doesn't look like a
but it's a small bet.
Yeah, it's such a small one. I mean, such a small one for this board. Let's say the board is king, deuce, deuce, and let's say the turn is three. Now, this small bet might be okay because, I mean, we are basically, let's say we have pocket queens on the king, deuce, deuce, three board. We know that he's never going to fold any pair. So we might just go for a bet, and we might even think of betting some rivers with our pocket queens. But we expect him to be folding anything but king X on that board. But let's say the board is like deuce, deuce, king, and the turn is another deuce, and you check call the flop. So you might just bet smallish on the turn because you know that if he has a king, he just raise you because he thinks he has nuts.
Right.
And he actually does. So you might just go for a little smallish bet with the intention of value betting the river too, because he can't have a draw. Because whenever he calls you, he needs to have at least a pair or an ace-high.
Right.
So in that spot, you know that he has to have something, and then you might bet the turn small and might even bet the river small. But in this case, this is not the board. There's tons of draws, and when we are betting here, we actually target his draws because, we have a blocker to the 7, and I don't think there's enough 4x in his range. I don't expect him to fold his H4, 3-4. He might fold Jack 4. Not that many 4s in his range. There are actually more draws in his range than the 4s.
Right.
So basically, and we are obviously beat by the king. So when we are betting here, we are targeting, mainly targeting his draws.
Yeah,
so
that is what I was
with the
trying to
intention of
target.
checking if we are gonna check behind most rivers, it means that we are targeting the draws because if we are targeting, let's say 4x, we should be betting the river too because if he's calling the turn with 4x, he's just gonna call the river too. But there's not enough 4x, so that's another reason why I would bet big. And river call for information is good. But let's say we have enough information. Let's say we have 1 page of notes on the guy. So that, obviously then we know that if he's leading the rivers with what kind of hands. But still, let's say we have tons of notes, but just somehow missed that river bet. But then I wouldn't like to call because we can, let's say, find out how he's playing rivers with, let's say, king 9 in this spot, or let's say any king in this spot from our other notes, because they will also tell us something about other situations. And this is also another thing that micro players miss a lot. Like, let's say you have a note on the guy that he's never check raising a flop with a draw. So, and you get to the river and all draws miss and he bets, and versus the actually aggressive player, you might just say that he never has a misdraw because you expect him to be check raising his draws at some point. He's not just going to check call his draws. Out of position, he's not going to check all 2 streets with a draw. So you might just rule out the draws in his range. But let's say you know that a guy is never check raising a draw on flop or turn. So you now say that he is leading some rivers with misdraws after check calling twice. You don't need to see it after river because because that's pretty much the only way he can play. And you might just I'm not saying that this will be 100% accurate, but you might just create other reads from a guy, let's say a flop play or a turn play. You might just create some reads about their river tendencies too. So this is also, I think, something that micro players should think about. Well, I like that you are actually betting the turn because most of the players will just check behind the turn here to bluff catch the river probably. Players who are checking behind here, are probably just calling a smallish turn bet like every single time. I mean, that's their intention, just keeping the pot small so they can blast catch the river
Did you mean
cheaper.
calling a river bet?
Yeah, I mean, they're just checking behind here because they want to blast catch cheaper.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, I mean, there's just such, I mean, for me, draws are just such a huge part of the range.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they should bet. I mean, I'm not saying that it's, I actually like that you bet here, but
Right.
I just want a little bit of a bigger bet
Okay.
here. That's
Well,
all.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye.